Stephenson and you have joined me here in the Fens for a spot of winter pike fishing. Today it's quite bright, as you can see. It's very windy, which is pretty much the Fens all over. But before we get fishing, we're just going to go through all of the tackle that we need to get started. So obviously we start with the rod that we're going to be using. Now I'm going to be using a 10 weight today, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need a 10 weight to start pike fishing. If you're interested, I've seen many people start with a 6 weight. It just means you need to use smaller flies. 6 weight, 7 weight, 8 weight will be fine. Work your way up to a 9 or a 10 weight. That's just going to help me today with the wind. And obviously I'd like to chuck some rather big flies, and obviously you're matching the line to your rod. So I've got a 10 weight intermediate. So in the winter, fish are going to be deeper. So we need to have an intermediate lines, or we'll want something like a sink tip or even a sink line, depending on the conditions. To that, I've got a 20-pound straight through leader, and attached to the end of that, we need to pop about 10 to 12 inches of wire trace. You can buy these in the shop ready made, or you can buy the bits to make them yourself. Pike have lots of sharp teeth, and you would hate to catch your best fish only for it to bite through the line and swim away with your fly. I use a clip on the end here so I can interchange my fly quickly, and then obviously a nice sparkly Christmas decoration on the end. We will need a big net. Some of the fish we are going to be after potentially could fit in this net. It is quite overkill, but I like to have it with me. So make sure you've got a good strong net that's going to hold the potential of a big fish. They are delicate despite the fact they look fairly prehistoric, so I always bring a little landing mat with me so that I can get it out and safely unhook it on the bank if I need to. And obviously, as I mentioned before, they have some really sharp teeth, so you don't want to get your fingers anywhere near them. They do have an anticoagulant in their saliva, so you will bleed for days if you get nicked. So make sure you've got a few options with you depending on how things are going. It's also very important to have some kind of pliers which have a wire cutting ability. I think just in case worst comes to worst and you really can't get that hook out, you can help the pike by getting the wire out of its mouth. Now I will quite easily take this whole packet of flies with me on a day and then use maybe just 1 or 2 flies. So at the moment my favourite fly is this silver one. This seems to be, this season has caught most of the pike that I've seen on the bank, so I'll be definitely taking a few of those. I always take a couple of perch imitations because there are plenty of them out there, and we all know that they are a pike's favourite nosh. I do like a nice dirty roach, so a little bit of brown, a little bit dull, for situations where you want things to look a little bit more natural. And if everything else is failing, you might want to pop something a little bit garish in. I tend to like putting a pink fly in. No idea why it works, but they do tend to like a little bit of pink. On some days where you have, it's quite murky, the water's quite cloudy or muddy, you might want something that pushes a little bit more water just to cause a little bit more of a stir. And with that, I sometimes take a couple of these muddler-headed pike flies just to push that water. But that's kind of all you need, and you'll be set for the day. So we're going to have a quick chat now about Watercraft and some of the bits and pieces we might need to know once we're out on the bank. Everything here is quite straight, but what we want to be looking for are things that the pike could hide behind. So bridges, structure such as boats, overhangs, any trees, which we don't find a lot of around here in the Fens, but any kind of structure the pike hopefully will be hiding behind. Especially in the winter, they will congregate where the bait fish are, and so we just need to find them. So there's no point fishing for hours down the same stretch at this time of year. You want to find a little area that looks good, feels good to you, makes you feel confident. Spend half an hour there chucking some flies. If no joy, then you move on somewhere else. So the stretch we're just going to have a look at here is very straight, but we do have a bridge and we have a boat. So we're going to fish around those and see if there's anything going, and if not, we'll move on, find somewhere else. So we're back at the car. We've spent about an hour on this stretch here, fishing a couple of different spots with no success. It's horrendously windy, so we're going to move on to another spot, try and find a little bit of shelter and a bit more structure and see what we can winkle out. Fingers crossed. So we've changed locations. This one's got a little bit more structure. You can see some overhanging trees and bits and pieces over here. Just changed the fly from my silver pattern to this. It's a kind of a mix between a slightly garish fire tiger with a bright orange throat here, but it looks a bit perchy. So I'm just trying to change something to a bit more natural, just because I've been casting the silver fly for quite a bit of time now, and I've had no interest, despite that it's my favourite fly, and there is something to be said about fishing with something you feel confident with. And very much likely, if I don't have anything from this, I'll probably go back to the silver fly, but I'm going to try this one for a little while. The water here is actually quite clear today, so a nice natural pattern is a good idea when the conditions are like this. The thing with pike fishing is varying your retrieve. Sometimes they'll just follow and you just need to kill the fly and then start stripping again. And another thing I think is really good about pike fishing when you're just starting out is you don't need to be super accurate, and you don't need to be able to cast massive lengths like you do with trout fishing. I sometimes struggle with trout fishing with the accuracy because I get a little bit overexcited and just can't get the fly where it's supposed to be. But with pike, you don't need to be accurate because you're not sight fishing. You're not trying to aim the fly in a specific location every single time. You don't need to be able to cast massive distances. And yes, double hauling will help in the long run if it's something you want to continue to work at. But in the early days, you don't need to learn to double haul. You can go out with the skills you already have and just have a crack at it. So I've worked my way up about 100 yards or so from where I started. Obviously been using this fly for a little while now, and he's had no interest, which makes me sad because he's a pretty little fly. So I'm going to go back to the fly that I had most confidence in, which was my silver fly. So I'm going to change back to that one and give that another go and see if he can bring home the bacon. So I've taken a bit of a walk further down, and there's this half-fallen tree. And these are really good things to look out for because this is kind of structure that pike might hide around. The wind, as you can see, is still rather strong. So to take into account, because we're casting big flies, you don't want to be casting dangerously where you're going to end up with that fly in the back of your head. So I'm going to have to try and cast out this direction. So I'll probably go to the other side of the tree, cast a few flies out this direction and bring them around past the tree and see if there's anything hiding around it. Oh, yep. Oh, that's a nice one. Oh, it's a nice fish. Yes. Fishing here for quite some time without any touch or anything, and then all of a sudden, just like winter pike do, they just suck the fly up. You hardly feel the take, and that's why you've got to be so switched on to the strip strike and just keep stripping. Even if you're feeling a bit of resistance, keep going, because those winter pike don't really let you know they're there. And we've caught this lovely beautiful Fenland pike on the silver fly, so good job. Decided to change to this one, so it did bring home the bacon. I've decided not to use the unhooking mat for this this chap because I can get in the water with him, so that I can keep popping him back under the water. Doesn't have to roll around on the side as much as hooking mats are much better to use if you're going to get them on the bank. If you can keep them in the water, it's going to be much better for the fish for its recovery period. So that's why we're in the water with him. But we can keep looking at how beautiful he is as he's recovering. He's been sitting here for a little while. The water's quite cold, so he'll recover quite quickly. we'll pop him back. Sometimes you can catch another 1 or 2 pike in the same area. Sometimes just the raucous of the fight can attract others in. But that being said, I'm going to head down this way because I've noticed there's a little boat down here. I'm thinking it's another bit of structure. We'll just fish around that and see if I can find any down there, and maybe just give another couple of casts in this area on the way back down. I thought I'd take a minute to just give you my 3 top tips for winter pike fishing. First, I would say that the pike themselves are quite sleepy, they're quite cold, so don't expect a ferocious take. So hold your nerve, and when you feel some resistance at the end of the line, stick with it, keep retrieving, practice that strip strike, and it will hopefully pay off for you. Secondly, keep moving. The pike will be in one place or 2 places, they're not going to be cruising around, so fish quickly, move spots regularly. And my third and final tip, again, because they're sleepy, they don't want to move, big profile flies, and fish them slowly because they're not going to move far and fast. So give it some good strips, let it sink, kill the fly, and slowly move it on again. So we've reached the end of our session here. It's been a fun day, it's been a tough day, but winter pike fishing is never easy peasy. We've moved around a lot, tried a few different flies, and it's paid off. We've had a beautiful pike out of the river here, and I hope it's given you guys some inspiration to get out there and have a go yourself. Before I go, I'd like to just say a huge thanks to Chapel Farm Fishery for hosting us here on the River Nene, and I hope to see you on the bank soon.